I want to talk about the hat because I'm obsessed with hats.
You are.
Let's analyze the hat.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's orange, right?
I can't quite tell if it's orange or red.
It looks red to me.
It looks
red in that picture. There's another picture where it looks orange.
Now, I had to match today with a hat with a Veterans Stadium patch on it as well. It's every day I have to make a hat decision, and this one pretty easy for me today. But the idea that he stepped off the plane, this is what makes Jonesy, I think, and this is what makes him valuable to the organization. Like, I'm just picturing him going like, before camera shows up, here you go. Like, whenever he says to me, Bill, I know the market. This is what he's talking. The dumb little shit that we just absolutely eat up. I've been trying to find this hat for like an hour now. I'm sure someone out there will be able to find a link for me. But the Veterans Stadium patch. Now, I do have a bit of a problem with a snapback Phillies hat. I just think Phillies hats are supposed to be fitted, but whatever. Maybe they didn't have his dome size, and they just wanted to make sure he had a hat as soon as he got off the plane. I'm fine with
obsessive.
it. I am. But I just like it's such a funny, perfect Bryce Harper-esque touch.
Yes.
I wonder. Look, I think most likely this was a Keith Jones touch. However, I'm not ruling out the possibility that this was his idea. I mean, we've seen pictures of him wearing Flyers gear. One of his buddies was wearing a Ben Simmons jersey.
Yeah, that's
true. He's got a Flyers
shirt
shirt on, and I would imagine he got off the airplane with the shirt on.
Oh, yes. The shirt, absolutely. The hat, I do think probably Jonesy. But I'm putting it at like, 20% chance that this was Michkov.
There's a possibility.
Buying the hat. Maybe he bought the hat in Russia, and that's why it's a snapback, because it's like a semi-knockoff.
Okay.
And then he gets off the plane and puts it on because he knows there's going to be pictures. I'm not ruling out that possibility. We might have a master panderer on our hands. It's possible.
Oh, he might not be Bryce level, but he's pretty good. He knows what he's doing.
Oh,
those Instagram stories are not a coincidence.
Like we talked about yesterday. Maybe he doesn't quite. It's hard to understand Philadelphia because we're lunatics and all mentally ill.
Yeah.
But like, I do think he at least gets some idea of the fervor when like he looks at his Instagram following and is like, yo, none of these people speak the language I speak. Like they all have Flyers logos as their profile pictures. It's definitely possible that he is playing into this.
Actually, so Michael in our chat has a good question. After this series against the Twins, Phillies are coming home. Does Michkov throw out first pitch in this weekend series? Is that what's coming?
I think
I feel like after he wears the hat, they're gonna call an ass.
Yes.
At the even if it wasn't planned, this is now on the table.
I am not the most adept at understanding other cultures. Has my man ever thrown a baseball?
I was going to say, what if he sucks at throwing and then the whole fan base just gets whipped into a frenzy because like he can't make it to home plate with the ball?
Maybe you let him go out there.
He's got to practice a few times.
Maybe you let him go out there with like a hockey ball and a stick, and he just like risks one to the fanatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be
and I want to
amazing.
point something out too, because this is something that I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago I got a lot of shit for, and I still to this day don't understand why people don't get it. But I do think there's a generational disconnect where like people under the age of 40 don't view this as a bad thing, and people over the age of 40 think it's the worst thing in the world. Pandering is not bad.
Oh no, it's
Pandering is good. Pandering shows that an athlete cares about how the fans perceive him. It is not like the idea that something has to be 100% sincere to be meaningful is ridiculous, because to be quite honest with you, there is nothing that is 100% sincere.
No.
Everything you do to be nice to someone, it's not entirely because like, oh my God, I care so much about that person. It's because you care that they are happy that you're doing something nice for them. And that's the whole point of pandering. Like, it doesn't matter to me whether Matvei Michkov came up with this idea on his own because he now has decided he's going to be a diehard Phillies fan and it's the most important thing in the world. The fact that he cared enough to put the hat on is what matters.
That's sincere.
That's what matters.
Right.
That's the important part.
Yes.
So the negative connotation of the word pandering should be retired.
Agreed.
Like, Bryce Harper panders. He panders constantly. it shows how much he cares and how much he loves being in Philadelphia, that he wants Philadelphia fans to like him. That is the good part of pandering.
I do think, well, this is a totally different conversation, but who cares? We have a 60-minute show to fill every day. I do think what Bryce Harper does now is a different...
He's crossed over.
It's a different word than pandering. I don't know what it is, but like Bryce Harper grew up in Las Vegas. There's no roots there. Like they just now got a hockey team. They're going to get a baseball team. They just got a football team. But he's never been part of like a sports community like that before. And he's this like basically celebrity from the time he's 16 years old. Then he goes to the Washington Nationals that don't have a fan base. He's never been a part of something before. He finally is, and he threw himself into it. I believe it was absolutely pandering when he started. But then, like Kelly said, like crossed over into something else. Like the Wooder thing is not pandering because we don't write Wooder. I say Wooder. Like that's how I pronounce it. But I wouldn't write it out like that's making a regional joke that we make.
Yeah.
Like that's the same thing as like the Clearwater t-shirts. This isn't pandering. It's a fucking joke about us.
True.
And like I just think he's like ingratiated himself. Like he's completely thrown himself into it. And I don't expect that from a 19-year-old kid who is from a different world, basically.
My view, and
I agree.
This is the point I made about pandering is that the reason why pandering has a negative connotation is because there's this belief that some actions are calculated and that's bad, and other actions are sincere and that's good. And my argument is that if you don't think every single action ever made in existence isn't calculated, you are hopelessly naive. Everything is calculated. Everything all of us do is calculated. And what matters is, do you care enough to do that calculation?
Yeah.
That's my point.
No, it's like the idea that he cares enough to do it is plenty. And like, and it's more so than Michkov. It's just one of those stupid little fucking things that when we talk about what this organization was a few years ago, and we can blame it on the people we've blamed it on, or we can just all go, this is what happens when a corporation runs something, you know, like the fact that they get the fans appreciate stupid shit like this that costs at most, let's call it $35, $40.
Very little.
Like, come on. Like, you know, a nice hat, maybe run you $50, absolute tops. It's cost you essentially nothing, and it scores points with your fan base. Do it. This is part of the new era of, and I know it's dumb and it's ultimately meaningless.
It's not.
But it isn't.
I don't think it is.
It really isn't. People care about this shit.
They do.
I still, like, when I picture Shane Gostisbehere in my head, I picture him wearing the black Phillies hat with the white pig. Like, that's what I think of.
Yeah.
Like, I remember it being a big deal that Mike Vick wore a Yankees hat. And it's like, well, he's worn one his whole life. He's worn this at every stop. He's worn this since it's what he wears. It's like, get him a Phil's hat, though. Like, you know, when you're as good as like Allen Iverson, you get to wear any hat you want.
This is true.
But like, we care so much about this dumb shit, and we are these fans that it's like, it's Philadelphia. It's not an individual team. If it says Philly, like, I don't like soccer. I'm anti-soccer. I think it's a communist plot. But like, go Union. Yeah, I want the Union. I don't want them to lose. I want to go Union, you know, when they're in the title game or whatever, I'm rooting for them. Like, if it says Philadelphia, we're for it. Therefore, just reach that little out, that tiny little bit that it takes no effort whatsoever that scores you so many stupid points.
And also, fans spent the last 5 years complaining so loudly that the organization didn't care about them.
Yes,
exactly.
This is them caring about. Keith Jones cares enough to bring a stupid hat to a kid because he knows you're going to find a little bit of joy in it. They care about what we think about them.
Yeah.
And that's important.
That was a big part of the frustration in large sections of the fan base surrounding the Dave Scott era Comcast Spectacor and the Dave Scott era Flyers, was that they didn't care enough to show how much we matter.
Right.
That the fans matter. And they were the Dave Scott viewpoint, which could have actually worked out in the grand scheme of things if the team was good, was that we're creating something new, and once the team gets good, it's not going to matter that we're not doing all the same things that Ed did. And that didn't work because then the team ultimately sucked. And then it became like, well, the team's bad and this doesn't feel like the way it used to be. What's even the point of this?
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why Dan Hilferty and Keith Jones and everybody are doing so much outreach to try to show that, yes, we do care about the fact that Ed wanted the logo to not be split down. Like, just like dumb shit like that doesn't actually really matter.
It doesn't matter.
But it does.
No,
but it also does.
So you, like, whatever you like doesn't, like, if it's what the fans want and this doesn't change, it doesn't cost you a dime.
Just do it.
There's no difference. Yeah. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. And this is the dumb little shit that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Put a fucking Phillies hat on it, and boom, we're happy. We're going to spend half of a show talking about this dumb thing
We are
rather than
people.
like, yo, is Jetluchenko the right pick? Like, you know what? Maybe it is. I don't care because Matvei Michkov is here and he's wearing a Phillies hat. Like, it's very, very simple. And they ignored it. And it did feel like for a long time they were like recruiting this fan base that they didn't have, and they didn't care how many of their own actual fans they offended. Like, oh yeah, we're just gonna have new fans who will get on board. It's like, yeah, maybe if you win.
Yeah, maybe if you win.
But
right. Yeah, that's the ticket, boys.
You didn't. Like, so
You definitely did not do that.
You're kind of stuck with the ones you have. Maybe pander to them a bit. And finally, we're seeing a bit of that, and it's real freaking nice.
I like it.
Charlie, tomorrow at the press conference, you have hundreds, I'm sure, of smart questions to ask, things that need to be answered for one reason or another. Could you find out where they got the hat? No, like, what do you
know?
I feel like that is a question of like after the press conference, I can go up to Josie,
take
be
Josie
like,
aside.
Josie, like, so tell me the hat story.
Yeah. Where'd the hat come from? Just Bill wants to know.